There's a coin toss to determine now who's going to get the first title shot against Yokozuna at WrestleMania, because damn it, Lex Luger just lost his opportunity at SummerSlam. He deserves another crack at it. He kind of won the Rumble at the exact same time as Bret, so they're both going to get title shots. And Lex wins, and to make it fair, Bret's also going to have a match earlier in the night versus his match with his brother Owen. So let's just talk about that for a minute. Had Lex won, then the match that would have went on last would have been Bret versus Lex for the world title. Of course, we know Yoko's going to win, so it winds up being Bret versus Yoko. But either way, nobody was talking about the match that happened last. Everybody's going to be talking about the match that happened first, and we're going to as well. But before we get there, I want to mention that on the WWF's All-American Wrestling TV show, where Vince is hosting at the time, he does separate sit-down interviews with both Bret and Owen. Bret is now turned around to the idea that he will fight his brother. Of course, previously, brothers never fight.
Brothers never fight. Doesn't happen.
But the sit downs with Vince, this is something that we didn't see him do a lot. We saw him do it a couple of times with Hogan, but to get that same treatment with Bret and Owen, it does make it feel bigger, doesn't it?
It was a bigger story. And I think that it was a personal story that needed to be told outside of the confines of a wrestling ring. And you have a family dynamic that no matter who you are, if you have a sibling, you understand it, you get it. And to take it out of the ring for a minute where people go, oh, well, that, the ring is one thing and what happens, but then what happens behind the scenes? What happens at Christmas? Does Bret get served first at Christmas dinner? When they're cutting the turkey on Thanksgiving Day, does Bret get a little bit more mashed potatoes and dressing?
Well, it should.
Because he's their favorite. That's why. Because Bret's the favorite. And Owen, being the youngest, came last and has always had to have hand-me-downs. He's always had to wear Bret's old shoes, Bret's old pants, never got anything new. Owen never got to go to the store to pick out his clothes. No, he got what Bret got. Because Bret was more in the middle, Bret got to get new clothes. He got everything handed to him. So when you explain those things to anyone who has a similar situation in their life, I think that your little sister can identify, Conrad.
Oh, listen.
I think she can watch this and say, yeah, that's right. Connie always did get the bigger piece of turkey.
Well, I deserved it.
Connie always got the first slice of pumpkin pie.
I don't eat pumpkin pie. She can have mine.
Only because you didn't want it.
Correct.
But Mom made you special stuff.
She did.
I know. I can relate to that. I can relate to CJ. Okay. I can relate to it. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's always people that can relate to it. And that was the beauty of telling this story. You got to tell it in a little different way other than just in the ring.
I'm going to kick your butt.
Jealousy and a real feeling of hatred. It's just your older brothers and they all suck because they get everything. Just saying that I had a little input on this.
There's a WWF tour in Europe and Israel in February of 94. Bret's usually working against Yoko each night, which makes sense because Bret's probably your most popular international star, maybe domestically too, but supposedly his fanfare over there was the next level, right, dude?
Yeah, Bret was, I think Bret was an international megastar long before he was in the continental United States of America. And Canada.
And this is the era where Vince realizes, hey man, if our business might be down a little bit here domestically, it's not internationally. So these tours become very important. There's 8 separate European tours in 94 where Germany is one of the stops. So think about that. Germany got 8 separate shows in 94. Bret's on nearly every tour. And he has a great match with your brother Tom on February 21st on Monday Night Raw in Poughkeepsie. And I think this was one of their only times ever working together. Do you know if Tom enjoyed working with Bret?
I think they did. Yeah, I think they did. The two older brother pieces of garbage. Owen and I secretly were hoping that they would just beat the hell out of each other.
So you're the Owen of the family.
No, Owen was the Bruce of the family.
Oh, I see. I said, okay.
Uh-huh.
In the run up to WrestleMania, Bret and Owen first go against each other in several tag matches on the road. I'm sure it's to the point where they could do this match with their eyes closed in the dungeon, but it probably is important for them to have some reps before a big event like WrestleMania. Crush is going to pin Bret Hart in the March to WrestleMania 10 special. It's shown just a week before the pay-per-view, and that happens in large part thanks to Owen's interference. But it's pretty good storytelling, to keep people guessing. And we all know the story of WrestleMania 10. You've laid it out, but did you think Bret had extra pressure on himself to help, for lack of a better word, quote unquote, make Owen here?
No, I don't think so. I truly believe that in Bret's head, Owen was already made and that Bret was giving him that avenue to display it. I think that in many ways it was a relief for Bret knowing that he was going to work with Owen, because it made Bret happy that he got to work with his brother every night and enjoyed it and felt that Owen really deserved the recognition that Owen was about to have heaped on him. And so I think that I don't think there was ever a doubt in Bret's mind that Owen was not going to be the perfect opponent, perfect foil for him for a hell of a run.
Well, now, I'm not arguing that at all. I just know that there's a different thing between, being the boys' favorite and being a guy who's having great matches on house shows and being a guy who has a good match on Monday Night Raw. And then you're opening WrestleMania with the guy who was in the main event the prior year and is going to win it all that night. It's a big opportunity for Owen. And I could see how that would be
huge.
Not only a big deal for Owen, but a big deal for Bret, just to be able to have that opportunity for his brother.
Yes, and it was huge, but I don't know how to put this. I think that both guys were nervous, as any great performer is every time he steps into the ring. I think that there was an expectation and that it was more of a feeling of, let's just go do this. It's time. You know what I mean? Let's go do this, man. We're here. And it wasn't a, God, I hope this works out. It was, no, man, let's go show them what we can do and do it.
Ultimately, we know the match itself. I mean, if you're looking for a match to watch from Bret Hart's 94, this is probably as good as it's going to get. Him and Owen, just fantastic storytelling. And then later in the night, in the main event on the 10th anniversary, the 10th WrestleMania in Madison Square Garden, Bret Hart wins the world title again, and his comrades lift him up on their shoulders, and what a nice visual. And it goes down as one of the greatest one night performances in WWF history at that point, I'm sure. And oh, by the way, they had a pretty famous ladder match along the way. WrestleMania 10, man, criminally underrated. Some really, really good matches on that show.
Some great matches and great storytelling all the way through. And I got chewed out, cussed out by Burt Reynolds that night. So that's excellent.
Bret and Owen are generally headlining all the house shows through the spring and summer of 94. So if I had to guess, this is probably the biggest run of paydays that Owen's had either on this WrestleMania Revenge tour. There's a mixed bag of houses at the time because, again, it is 94, business is a little down. But there's times where, like on May 20th, you draw 15,000 folks to MSG, and that's pretty good, especially then. But only 5,000 folks to the Spectrum a month later in Philadelphia. Do you think this was just cyclical? Because we hear a lot of times that people say, oh, the business is cyclical. Or were they just not that into Bret and Owen, do you think?
I think it was more kind of residual. And the business wasn't, that red hot at that point. And I just think that it was kind of residual of what was before.